better call somebody.
My guy Big T, and I posted it right on the screen to make sure it was up there right when we got on. But if you can't see that, it says $75,000. This build, he pretty much gave it out on the show. He loved Tutu. He said Hurts was close to a lock. Zacchaeus, Cheapy, Wilcox, Cheapy, and then he had the two studs. He loved Chase, A.J. Brown with Chase. I mean, he gave this build out on the show. So if you watch the show, you probably did a pretty good job if you followed my guy Big T.
So now you got Hurts, Mixon, Chase, Devontae, or AJ. That puts you at 3K. That's the two punt build where you play OZ.
Has his man, that is Zacchaeus.
And one of our Bengals guys. You could ship with 2 3s in your team. You really could because of these guys. And then what happens when OZ gets the touchdown? He houses one.
Time runs out. Touchdown.
You're going to win $500K tonight.
Zacchaeus.
Everyone goes through cold streaks, and everyone knows this, but the people that keep going, the people that keep playing, they're always playing. They don't let it affect them. That's what happens.
Let's go. What's going on, everyone? AP over here at Rumpier Sports, bringing to you. We got the Lineup Builder Show with our partner Sabersim. I'm here with my guy Rubio Dimes. Rubio, what's going on, my man? How are you doing this morning?
Oh, doing great. Ready for some NFL action. It's a weird slate, AP. It's a Jaguars Saints Thursday night football. It just feels muddy. It feels gross. We got a bunch of injuries on each side too, but I think the more injuries, the better for us in fantasy. More edge to pick from. So hopefully it's a good slate. I think Monday we had a lot of people get close. So let's hope to repeat that. Maybe actually take it down this time.
Yeah, this does set up to be an interesting showdown slate between the Jaguars and the Saints, 39.5 total. Just looking, so I do the lineup study where we're posting the past optimals, and it's crazy. The last 3 games, Saints games, have been a 5-1, 5-1, and 1-5 with Baker Mayfield in the 1-5 as captain. The Saints defense in the captain in two games ago, and then Rashid Shaheed had absolute stud of a game, was 5-1 in their last game. On the flip side, and then, salary-wise, you're talking over their last 23, 24 games for the Saints, the average salary used is right around $45K, which is low. Typically, most teams that I've seen are in the 47.5. And then, like the last slate that we had, talking about the Bills, talking about not the Bills, but Bills actually is a good example too. But talking about the Chargers game, like 48.7K. So I'm preparing for a lot of wildness, a lot of randomness, maybe a lot of tilt. Because these Saints showdown slates are interesting. Like anything goes. So it's going to be a ton of fun. We're going to break it down for all of you. If you haven't yet, first hit the like button, hit the subscribe. We appreciate it. I don't think we asked too much on the show either, Rubio. We kind of just dive in and get after it. And speaking of that, do we want to review last slate? I know we've been doing that. The contest flashback. Should we go back and look?
Yeah, why not? That would be good to do. Let's do it.
Because as you said, we were really close on this last slate, Monday night slate. I think it was Michael Gallup. We probably needed Michael Gallup to snag a few of those balls, right?
Michael Gallup was very close. I mean, what was it, 11 targets or whatever? You couldn't drop.
How many catches? Touchdown. Like 2?
Oh, God. It was, 4.9. Was it 2 for 19 or 3.9, whatever it was. But I think Big T, our guy Big T, had the best Keenan Allen captain lineup. And
he did.
Yeah, it was interesting for sure. I mean, let's see, greater than 49.
So speaking of, I agree. Rubio, congrats. Congrats to our guy Bryce. Excuse me, third inch long. Shipped over 50K last night. WNBA. You absolutely love to see it. I mean, Rubio, you grind every sport. You had a sweat in League of Legends too. I mean, just incredible stuff. I also played League, and I had no idea what I was doing. I don't follow those teams, but I had some okay squads. I wasn't live or anything like that. I saw you guys up there. You got passed, I think, during that last game, right? Not trying to throw salt in the wounds, but
Nah, it was
brutal.
looking good, man. I'll tell you, that's the best part about RPS, though, is that literally we have so much that you can just play, just have fun with, and pulling up, when you're winning 7K to start your morning and stuff, it's hard not to sweat it out. So I put it on Twitch and saw it dwindle down to not first place anymore, but it was still fun. Mangone and I were tied up there too. So it could have been a nice RPS ship. We had our guy Sheets in there from the chat. He was hyping it on because he was also up there in that little 4-man train. So, it happens.
I was definitely in the sheets. So I was not watching any of that. What it started, like midnight?
Yeah, 1 a.m., midnight your time. But yeah, it was fun times. League of Legends, good. Hopefully we get more 20K to first here because we got it covered. Sabersim has the contest sims and stuff too. So you can apply that knowledge from this show, to the League of Legends streets. And, we look at it last slate right here. I got my guy Big T up. He was probably the first or the second RPS guy. There was another one in 15. But he had the best Keenan Allen lineup, Cooks, Lamb, Aubrey. So it ended up being very close to the winner. If Keenan Allen's catch for 8-yard stands at the end, you could easily see him move up into this top 5 or whatever. But I do know we had an RPS guy up here too in 14th AP. Let me know if you noticed. MC Dusty, there's our guy.
MC Dusty.
Yeah,
there he is. Look at that. Really nice build. CD Lamb captain, a 4-2, one quarterback build. So I do want to talk about that. If you caught the show on Monday, one thing we highlighted was over the last 44 combined games between both of these teams, the Cowboys and the Chargers, only one time did we have a quarterback captain, and it was Sam Howell in a Commanders game against Dallas. And that was the big kind of discussion point that we had. So naturally, of course, we get a Dak Prescott captain build. Now, how did that take place? Well, for that 4th and 1, from 33 yards out, he scrambles for a tutty. When's the last time Dak Prescott's done that? And he was very, very close to not being optimal. So, I still stand by it. Yeah, Dak's price was relatively cheap for a quarterback, but with how those teams play, I stand by the take there, just not having the quarterbacks and the captain. I will say, one thing that I was thinking about doing was leaving 5% in there because the winning build, which chopped 300K, was that right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was a pretty simple build. Yeah. But yeah, let's before we look at the winning build, break down, put us up there. Let's compare. We'll see how. Actually, mine wasn't actually that bad.
It's funny because no matter how close we all were, it was still it's rough on the bankroll, right? It's still a kick in the nuts too sometimes when you don't get first. But we always want to put ourselves in a great position, and we were in a good position. So I want to see here. I think I'm going to narrow it down to just yours here. So we'll check out your exposures and stuff because you were slightly different than me in this regard. If we can actually get up the ownerships, you had a lot of captain, a lot of Lamb, a lot of Pollard. You kept it nice, and your Gallup teams is that I wanted to check this out because the Gallup captain was truly very close to hitting, and you had a 111.3 with Gallup in there, which was a stupid high score. If Gallup does anything, man, it's hard to believe that isn't the optimal team, right? What place did it get even? It got pretty high up there. It was your one of your best teams, right? Let's see.
Yeah, and one thing too, let me walk through very quickly a few things that I did and a few mistakes that I made. So I had to do a lot to get Austin Eckler as captain, and I kept almost manually manipulating it a little too much because I wanted him to be my highest captain. And everything that I did, I was getting CeeDee Lamb captain. I was getting, Tony Pollard as my highest own captains. Michael Gallup, up there as well. And even Keenan Allen, I was getting a good amount of him. I made too many manual adjustments, I think, to Eckler and Keenan Allen. I should have, after my round 2 of adjustments that I make after a base build, I should have just let it be. I would have had better success. I even had in my first few builds 6%, 7% Dak Prescott captain. I wouldn't have had what ended up being, the nuts and that chopped up there, but still, I should have just let the process be the process there. We're learning each and every slate that we do this. Going back and looking at your results too, I think is just massive. But yeah, I mean, we had it somewhat surrounded up there. And Showdown, it's every play. Like, 1 minute you're chopping for 28K, another minute you're chopping for 13K, and another you're getting back $1,000. It's just how it goes.
Exactly. And that was the thing too, is that it sucks that when Dak ran in that 18-yard touchdown, we kept talking about it, right? Like, there was no way I was playing a quarterback captain on that slate. I got beat by a quarterback captain, but in the end all be all, I mean, that's what it took. It took Dak Prescott to look like his college days, where he was literally running like a lot. He had 33 yards rushing at one point, I know. And I don't know what the Neals took him to, but you just had that one fluke game where he barely outscored Keenan Allen captain lineups. He barely outscored CeeDee Lamb captain lineups. And it's because he had a big run for a touchdown, that is, too. It's like, I have no regrets on how I built. The best part, too, is that, I'm not afraid to show like my results or anything like that. My sim ROI was good. Shows that like my builds are in the right range. Not as good as some people, but we still make healthy stands, right? That's the best part, is that we still make stands on our takes, and we stand by. We stand by.
The only thing that matters is the sim ROI, right?
Exactly.
Who had the highest between me, you, and Tony?
Oh, God.
I'm curious now.
That's a good one.
I think I was in last there, so I'm just losing the battle.
This is going to be a fun game, because that's the only.
The best thing about having like a strong sim ROI, and if you suck, then you can tilt the fact that you ran really bad. You
guys are a really good sim ROI. Is the guy who won 50K last night. Big third and schlong there. Into the mix. Let's get JDC in there. Fun, right? And then JVC on fire with the bets too.
Yeah,
dude's been absolutely crushing.
They've been absolutely crushing. 28 and 7 over the last 7 days or 6. I told the chat, I'm going to go door to door selling those bets packages, because I know I have a lot of neighbors that bet and everything. They need to be subscribing, because I know they're losing too. Well, all right, so sorted by sim ROI. Our guy Big T, of course.
No, it's me.
Nope. So you're average. All right, sorted by a sim ROI.
Sadly, it won't let me sort the green section.
Oh, no. Okay, I got you. So
it does let me see the sim ROI. It's me, JSU, Bryce, and then I think
I have the worst. What a donkey.
It's because the Eckler captain. It was because you were doing that manual changes to Eckler captain.
I got you. And the thing about it is, I thought Eckler, with his price tag, I thought he was going to be much lower owned than what he was. And so what that tells me is that a lot of people were doing that. A lot of people must have been manually making an adjustment there to squeeze Eckler in. And so it's kind of interesting. Obviously, I missed on that point. Obviously, that number would look better if Eckler was lower owned. He also was much higher owned, in the flex spot that I thought too. So very interesting there. And I think it was Keenan Allen ended up being one of the lower owned captain. Is that right?
So Keenan ended up being lower than Tony Pollard and CeeDee Lamb in the same amount as Eckler, which is a surprise. Herbert getting 8% captain. I have to attribute that to being the 12 rushes in the game before, and he was very mobile. So I don't want to hate on that. Dak Prescott, 5%. Gallup, we saw that funnel, projected for 3, ended up getting the 6, 41% overall, like we said on the show. Ferguson and the Cowboys defense. This is where Cowboys defense getting 3.5% ownership. Quentin Johnston. Yeah, you had a lot of good plays in this slate, but I'm looking forward to this one too. The one that we have on tap, I don't think it's going to be a Duke fest at all. So hopefully we can get better results too. I mean, I thought that slate on Monday was great, and we surrounded the leaderboard. This time we're going to crush it though, and it starts with our optimal build here. So we just do 150 without any changes. There was one change, I have to admit. I lowered Alvin Kamara just a tad, just got the Jamal Williams in, and I gave Jamal Williams a projection that was standard to ESPN and what they were projecting for that. So when we did that, you'll notice one thing here, and so let me go ahead and get the exposure up, is that we get a ton of Alvin Kamara still. That is just surprising to me, AP. It's like we get a lot of him in the captain, and a lot of Trevor Lawrence in the captain. Quarterbacks especially are priced down in this slate. I'm looking forward to this slate too. I think there's so many routes you can go, AP, and the optimal doesn't seem to commit to anything outside the quarterbacks, really.
Yeah, I'm with you. Just looking at this season alone, when we look at the Jaguar showdown slates, we have Travis Etienne. He was the captain last two slates. Bijan Robinson, the slate before that. Tank Dell, Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley were the ones on the Jag side. For the Saints, Rashid Shaheed, Saints defense, Baker Mayfield, Jordan Love, Adam Thielen, Chris Olave is what we're looking at there. 5-1, 5-1, 1-5, 2-4, 3-3. And salary has been a mixed bag as well. So, and then injury-wise, we were talking about it too before the show. Trevor Lawrence, he's what? We think he's going to play, right?
Yeah, it looks like he's going to be in, knee sprain, but has practiced in limited fashion back-to-back days, and it sounds like he's going to play. My slight worry is that his running ability gets hindered because he's one of the best mobile quarterbacks in the league. The dude's been averaging almost 30 yards a game on the ground. It's a slight worry, but he's also one of the guys that I don't ever mind putting in the captain slot at quarterback. And if he's healthy, I'm going to treat it like he's healthy. I might bump him just a point down, but it does worry me with his legs just a tad, just because he's such a really good runner.
And it looks like what? Like Cameron or the line issue for the Saints looks to be very serious. They got two random dudes coming in. Man. So, yeah, I mean, it makes the Kamara discussion really interesting. Yeah, maybe negated a little bit because of the targets that he gets, and that's why he has such a strong floor. But on the surface, when I look at it, both teams have been good against the run. Like Bijan Robinson was the only running back that's put up over 100 yards for either of these teams, like against the Saints. So Travis Etienne, he's been an absolute beast, and you got to like what this Jaguars team is doing. There's only been one running back, like the best running back performance against the Saints was Derrick Henry with 63 yards on 15 carries. Like this defense has been very, very good on the run. So can you go back to the captains real quick in our base build? I want to see what that breakdown looks like.
Here we go. It's interesting. The Jaguars defense today, and we'll get to that. I know we want to talk about the running back. The Jaguars defense is almost the cheapest that you almost want to go within this slate. It's going to be really interesting to see how people handle that. But you see the running backs aren't popping a ton. They don't have stout projections either. I mean, both these defenses have a decent run defense, right? The Jacksonville Jaguars kind of funnel more toward the passing. And the Saints have been just a really good defense overall in general. I think the great thing about Etienne that's not really baked into his projection too much, he catches a ton of balls. I mean, that's just the biggest thing too, is that he'll probably get there PPR or not, or with PPR, if the running game's not there. And the same can be said about Alvin Kamara. It does suck with Alvin Kamara, though, that Jamal Williams is in, because I think he would have just been a lock and load on this type of slate. But the running back's not really popping too much in the captain, but it's just the quarterbacks. And Mike Thomas might be one of the best plays in the slate. And that's kind of personal preference, but I really like the way he sets up today.
Yeah, when you look at just looking at like a matchups like a flow chart perspective, the Jaguars they haven't been the best, so they've been good against opposing running backs, not as good against opposing receivers, and it's actually like they've been good against opposing wide receiver ones. It's only been Michael Pittman and Stephon Diggs that have had great performance against them, but the wide receiver 3 and 2. There's been some monster games. Tank Dell, Josh Downs, two of them. Hardy, he had a good game against them. And so, like, I'm looking at, you mentioned Michael Thomas, but then I wouldn't discount Rashid Shaheed too. Like, the dude is an absolute freak. He went off. I'm actually mad at myself when I was doing my main slate preview last week. So the Houston Texans, they set up very similar. When I was looking at that, I'm like, man, this team has been good defensively, but their hole has been against the wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 position. And I had Rashid Shaheed highlighted, but then I went back to it. I'm like, that's probably more so like a small slate or showdown slate type of play, and I moved off of it. But he was in the Millie Maker winning lineup. I'm fine, 100% fine going right back to him. The other thing that I want to ask you about is Taysom Hill. We're coming off, they've used Taysom Hill in so many different ways. I don't know if we've ever seen an 8-target game from Taysom Hill. Seven receptions, 49 yards. I mean, that's why I had to play the Big T intro at the start of this. Taysom Hill is Big T's boy. I mean, what's your thoughts on Taysom Hill, just, from a macro perspective?
Yeah, Juwan Johnson's out. So it's left this tight end position open. Obviously, they checked it 50 times last game. That probably won't happen again. However, it still was very nice to see that Taysom Hill is being utilized in the pass game. And if you really want to peel back the layers a little bit, Taysom Hill, potentially fading Derek Carr, fading both quarterbacks at the Taysom Hill team. Maybe Taysom Hill runs them in, maybe he throws them in. I just like the way it sets up because he's going to be utilized as a tight end, and he could always be utilized in that backfield. I know Jamal Williams is back and stuff, but it's just kind of funny how this Taysom Hill being a very good, receiving threat now. What was it? 7 catches last game on those 8 targets too.
It's insane.
Yeah, and I do want to mention, when you say it's been very good against wide receiver ones for the Jaguars, it's because Darius Williams is a very good corner, right? They have a backup on the other side of the ball. I know our guy Bobby Boone was in the chat saying this, is that it's Buster Brown or whoever's starting for them. And let's be honest, they haven't been able to contain wide receiver 2s and 3s. And who's the wide receiver 2s and 3s tonight? Like you said, Mike Thomas, Rashid Shaheed. It might be like the move to just kind of bump up MT, bump up Shaheed, and go for that big play upside. Because when we want to get first place, we'll see it in the Sims, is that I want to bump up those guys. I want to see how much I get of them. And if it leads to me being underweight on Olave just slightly or under on the running backs, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with the calculated risk there because the Jaguars, they haven't been able to defend the passing game all year. And they've been pretty stout, against the run. And so have the Saints. And it's a game that it's a low total, but I do think there's some spots to exploit here.
Yeah, I'm with you. Did we find our guy, the Siege, is burning? In chat here, playing a backup quarterback. I mean, I won't do it if Trevor Lawrence is a full go, because if he's playing, I assume he's fully healthy and he would play the whole game. And I guess that's just not my style to try and guess injuries and stuff. But yeah, you could do it. You could get creative. A couple things too, because when we're looking at this base build, the 2 highest are Trevor Lawrence and Derek Carr. So just to add on to what Rubio was saying, let's look at what they've done year to date. Let's start with Trevor Lawrence, 15, 20. 20 is not bad. We probably, at his price point, we probably want more than that. Let's see if he's accomplished more than that year to date. 16, 5, 15, 10, 18. So, with the Jaguars running a very balanced offense, we just haven't seen that big score from a guy like Trevor Lawrence, even though he's been, using his legs a little bit more, only 3 rush attempts last game. This could be a game where he's running for his life a little bit too. I have some respect for the Saints defense. Let's go to Derek Carr on the other side. He's coming off a 20-point game against Houston. That was his best performance of the season, 15.7, 4, 8, 7, 18. So I like where you're at, or at least definitely being under on the quarterbacks and especially at the captain spot, and limiting, maybe even limiting them in the flex. Should we start breaking this down and looking at projections and adding some bias and recreating this build?
Yeah, so
you already got it up. Look at that. You already got it up.
Yeah, I'll go and show you my bias. We can always change it too.
Yep,
we can be more aggressive, not aggressive, and then we can rerun the contest sim.
So can you go team by team, like highlight the Jaguars first?
Yeah, you know what? Let's take it a step further and let's do position by position. Really, just kind of break down Trevor Lawrence. He's projected for about 16.06 or something like that. I bumped him down just a half point due to his rushing ability being kind of hindered. I'm not a fan of it, but he's still the highest projected on the slate at 15.75. Let's go. I'll just bring the
bring up the Saints if you're going to go position by position.
Yeah, we'll do teams. My bad. I realized that after I started talking. I'm like, this probably isn't the best idea. But here's our projections here. I'll go ahead and put their price tag next to it as well, so we can see that. ETN 14.25. I gave Kirk a slight bump over Ridley because matchups. Kirk has already been like the guy there, it seems. Like Ridley's been very good. He's been very good in the second half against the Bills and stuff. But if he draws the Lattimore matchup, I mean, why not bump Kirk slightly over Ridley and stuff? And let's check the projected ownership. It's kind of reflecting that same thing where Kirk might get a little more ownership than Ridley, according to Saber. So that's interesting too. Ingram,
I like that move.
Sixes.
So just to highlight what Rubio said, when you're looking at it from a matchups, like a flowchart standpoint, something that I look at, and I'm, again, mainly looking at fantasy points, DraftKings scoring, but the Saints have been 17th against wide receiver twos, where they've been 8th against wide receiver ones. We got to assume, Ridley going to have that bad matchup there, and then I have it as Christian Kirk as the one with the potentially better one. And Chris Godwin, he had a nice performance against them, eight receptions for 114 yards. So I could see Kirk being that guy, just kind of absorbing the volume, short passes, easy looks.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And it kind of funnels into this thing where the Saints have been really good against tight ends. I gave a half point down to Ingram, and we can be more aggressive on any of these that you want. And gave McManus just a slight bump down. I know he's been a great kicker, but 4,800, anything above 8 for a kicker to me is really aggressive, and I don't want them popping a ton. Jaguars defense, arguably one of the best value plays on the slate. That's because we have a Saints banged up offensive line. We have hardly any value, and so I kept them at mid 7.5.
I like
What
it.
is that? 4 sacks? I mean, that could easily happen with a guy like Josh Allen there and stuff. I mean, I like him at 7.5. Jamal Agnew, no targets last week, same position. Still give him a 3-point projection. You can always get these touches around the line of scrimmage. And Tank Bigsby for the vulture, and then Tim Jones just for playing some snaps. Anything that you want to change on the Jacksonville side of the ball?
No, so I do think one area, so we've seen it would be tight ends against the Saints. We saw Dalton Schultz get in the box for 4 receptions, 61 yards, 1 touchdown. Musgrave was another tight end that had a good game against them. So I don't actually mind bumping up. The 2 guys I was bumping up was Ingram and then Christian Kirk. So yeah, I think we're very, very much aligned there.
Perfect. I just gave our guy Ingram a 1.75 bump of what I had. So that'll definitely be in play there. So yeah, perfect. And then we can go ahead and go to the New Orleans side of the ball. Anything jump out here to you that's wrong? So obviously you see Thomas over Olave, gave Shaheed a 2-point bump. He was in the 7s. Let's give him another one too. I think we're both.
Let's get aggressive with him, man. The guy's a stud. They're obviously using
big play.
Yeah, they're using him in so many different ways. 2 rush attempts last game, 6 targets, only 2 receptions. But look, those 2 receptions, I mean, 85 yards and a tutty. He's a big play guy, and they're if you just think about it, I mean, they're going to have to get creative in this matchup with the issues that they have at the offensive line position. The other thing too is we do have to respect Alvin Kamara, because the targets are just, 8 targets last game. Or no, I don't. Yeah, 8 targets last game, right? Yep. 7 receptions, 8 targets. He's gotten roughly over 25 total touches last 3 games. And what I mean by that is rush attempts and receptions. So he's obviously going to get the volume, and we haven't seen his upside too. I don't think he's gotten in the box. No, he has one time against the Patriots, a rushing touchdown. So again, I think we do have to. 15. I'm okay going light on him. It does seem like, it seems a little under, but I'm with you.
So the pass funnel of the Jaguars and Jamal Williams being back maybe dock him a point. And it's because more of the fact that Jamal Williams being back could hinder him around the goal line, and they might not chuck it 50 times. However, I do think he's probably one of the best floor plays in the slate still. So let's get him back up. Yeah, that's almost where he was before, but we'll give him that 0.75 bump. We'll make that clear separation between him and Carr.
I'm definitely good being under. If the industry, what do we have his projection at? 16? Yeah.
Yeah, it's 16 something.
16 something. Yeah, I'm fine being under. And I'm fine with both defenses. We got to just embrace there could be some crazy stuff on this slate.
Jaguars are 3,800. It's almost half the price of what the Bills were the other day, and it's a very tight game. It's low total, low spread.
What are they doing? Are they asleep at the wheel? The pricing
People
difference
don't
right there
love
is
playing
insane.
underdog defenses, and I don't know if the Jaguars will get steamed up too much, but there is just a really bad lack of value here. Like, what the Jaguars are projected for how much ownership? They're saying about 22% ownership. So that makes sense. But you look at the value here. Like Taysom Hill, 6,200. Groupie is 5,200. The kicker is 5,200. Saints defense, 1,600 more. And then you have Foster Moreau, who wasn't even the tight end one last game. It was Taysom Hill. We'll give Foster Moreau a slight bump just because he does get like a couple close range passes. Jimmy Graham, I didn't see him last game at all. Kendra Miller, I'm worried that he gets phased out of the backfield a bit, but it's kind of where we're at right now. Let's give it let's run the contest sim here.
Can you do one last thing? I was going to add. All right. So what contest sims are you using? I wanted to look at the Millie Maker, and then I wanted to compare it to a 3 max that's a mid-range contest size, and then more of like a single entry contest size, just to see the differences in build.
Let me add a 3 max here. So this would be the $20 3 max. This is the $4 3 max. I love that one. That one's a great one. So we can do up to 10 contest sims at once. Let me go ahead and go back to settings here. So the way you do this, you hit settings, you scroll down, contest sim settings, and then you can check each box. So we have our flagship Millie Maker tonight. We got the $3 20 max. We got the $5 single entry, and then we got the $4 3 max.
I love doing this. Like, if you aren't doing this, I love doing this, and I love seeing the differences between each. It's really, really interesting.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what it helps make you a better player. It helps, see that. And so we'll sort by 20 max sims in this one too. I know a lot of people play 20 max and stuff. I want to sort by 20 max for NBA. Still debating on the strategy there on a nightly basis, but the $4 20 max is one of the best contests out there in DFS. And if you guys just want to get your feet wet, or if you don't have contest sims or anything like that, or if you want to experiment with it, I think the $4 20 max, the $3 20 max in NFL tonight, good place to kind of get used to that. And it's nice. So we're almost done with the contest sims here. And
and if you're not, all right, so I've looked at this. Go to the different where you can sort it. Like in NBA, here's what I like. NBA is more about projections, in my opinion. I mean, it's a far more easier sport to project because we know rotations, we know injuries, we know typically the range at which a player is going to perform relative to like their usage, what they're doing offensively, rebounds, points, assists, etc. You can just run it by highest projected score and then introduce some min uniques. So like, even if you don't have the contest sims package, you can still, I think in NBA, do it that way and you're going to be perfectly fine. Like, you want a more narrow kind of distribution of players anyway. At least that's how I play. But I am with you. It's going to be interesting. And we're going to be doing some of these shows live. We're going to be doing late swapping live. There will be times where maybe we change the show up a little bit. We hop on at night instead of doing it early. So I'm really excited for that. And so what we got it sorted by what? 20 max right now? Should we just let them go?
Oh, that's
I was just gonna let you go.
So surprising here. So let's do this real quick, sis. Let's go ahead and get it down to 20.
So Rubio, I did the podcast last night with Kurt, and it's worse on a podcast because you don't see us. And I'm sitting there, and he's just laughing at me. I was on mute, so don't feel bad.
So we can sort it by 20. If we went 500, we could do that too. Let's do 20 for a 20 max, right? So what you can see is from our best 20 ROI. It gives us a lot of Mike Thomas captain, accustomed to our projections here. Shaheed, a little bit of Olave, Ingram, Kirk, Kamara, Carr. So it doesn't love the quarterback captains here as much as the Opto did. Gives us Ingram here. So this one's interesting. Complete correlation across the board. Leaves a ton of salary. 1,900 for a 20 max. It's going to get you different, but it does correlate very well. It gives you a lot of correlation across the board. And don't forget, we're slightly under on the running backs compared to the industry at this moment. So if you guys want to bump up the running backs and stuff, you can kind of experiment with what you get. But you see these teams here, I mean, they correlate very well. You get pass catchers that we're very high on in Mike Thomas, Shaheed. Like, this one's a triple stack. Don't know if I'd love a triple stack on this slate. And we don't get a ton of Jaguars defense as much as I thought we would. Let's take a look at the Jaguars defense. So obviously defenses have a little bit of correlation with running backs. You're going to see that with ETN here. It's a 4-2. You got 2 PPR guys, Kamara and Thomas. You can get there. So this one's a very good team. I actually really like this one.
Yep.
Scroll down. You got an Olave one with the Jaguars. And I don't think you have to make any rule if you're playing the Jaguars defense tonight because they are so cheap that they can get there with just 5 points tonight. I think there's a chance that the cheapest option that gets fantasy points could be the Jaguars defense. So don't need to make any rules at that at all. And again, this is for a 20 max. Let's take a look at the ETN builds too. So you get a Shaheed captain here with Derek Carr. These look good, AP. I mean, I think these correlate very well, and I think it also shows you don't need to use all the salary tonight.
Yeah, I like that. And again, don't be afraid to play Derek Carr with Jaguars defense. Like I honestly, in showdown formats, there is the case to be made of a slight positive correlation there because if you think of if the Jaguars get sack, scoop and score, fumble, scoop and score, or a pick six, it just creates more opportunities for Derek Carr on the other side. Now, again, I mean, you need that perfect game script to pan out, but this is a scenario tonight where I could see that happening because the Jaguars are going to bring pressure. It's what they're going to do. Yeah. And we know both teams, it's tough to run on both of these teams. So you got to think that the Saints are going to want to do it through the air, with Michael Thomas, Olave, and Rashid Shaheed. So I like that. What about, how much Taysom Hill are we getting?
So in the 20 max, let's see.
Yeah.
Let's do this, 20. And we don't get any Taysom Hill looks. And that's because of his high price tag. We did project him upwards to 8, which is, I think, pretty modest. We might be able to bump him up a point. Then we just kind of gamble on just completely shoving this Saints pass game completely. So let's see if we expand it out to like 150 if we get much Taysom Hill. We end up getting about 7%. His projected ownership's around 12.66 right now. So yeah, it's kind of on par. We're high on the other passing options. Probably could be pushing that down just slightly.
The other thing, even when you had just 20 builds selected, that pops out to me is how many captains that we're getting, and what that tells me is it's just going to be a slate that's volatile. I mean, like when you're looking at this, it's bringing in so many different captains. If you go, can you switch it to the Millionaire Maker contest? I'm really curious to see how many captains that
keep an eye on exposure here. So, and I want to do this real quick. I want to go out to 150 on the 20 max. And I just want to see how much it changes in the flex too. Is how much the exposure. So we have Carr, Lawrence, Shaheed, Thomas, and then it still kind of keeps that order, but it does dock Thomas and Shaheed just slightly. Kamara gets pushed up. Not a ton of ETN. We're really low on ETN in this case. Then it increased the captain pool by like quite a bit there. This could be nice. I like Mike Thomas a lot tonight.
Yeah, so I'm pulling up my last. So how many captains? 12 captains. So Mike Thomas, our highest one. I mean, it is full on embracing the volatility. I'm even good with like a Jaguar. I know. Hopefully JBC's not watching earmuffs, but Jaguars defense captain, Kamara. I mean, it's bringing in all the skill position players. And when we look at it, how many? Can you see the breakdown between stack types too?
Yeah, 100%. So doesn't necessarily show like if you have
the click stack exposures. So we're getting.
So you want to see the 5-1s, but
yeah, we're getting 20% 5-1. And again, I don't like. I guess what's your thought on that? Are you going to eliminate like 5-1s or do anything like that on a slate like this one, or just leave it be?
So 5-1 wise, it is a lot of Saints. It's 17% Saints, and the reason why I don't love that a ton is that I think there's enough mid-range value from the Jaguars. You also got McManus there, and the cheapest option on the slate that I love is the Jaguars defense. I don't love Foster Moreau more. You also have Jamal Agnew there, who's only 400 if you want to go the punt route. The punts are on the Jacksonville side. So I think there's merit to maybe limiting the 5-1s or Xing out.
And you know what? The other thing, and you've mentioned it, but it's the defense. If you think of, all right, so what I look for, like when a 5-1, I want a target monster guy, and I want a target distribution tree that's very defined. we do somewhat have that. We know that Kamara is going to get a ton of touches. And then with what they're doing with Shaheed, you only need one or two big plays for him to be optimal. So we already have a target monster, a guy that's going to assume a ton of volume in Kamara. We have a guy who only takes one play to be optimal in Shaheed. Then you got Taysom Hill in this really, interesting role. And then you got Michael Thomas or Chris Olave. So I do see paths, but on the Jags side, it does set up to be a nice spot for Christian Kirk, like we talked about. And then going back to that defense, like I think the defense with how cheap they are, they're not going to have to do a ton. We need the sacks. A turnover would help. So they do need to do something, but you could see paths to where that defense does kind of filter in, potentially there in the flex.
Yeah, 100%. And when I bump the uniques up to 2, it kind of gives me more diversification. I think this is a great slate for two uniques. So you see, we were super heavy on Michael Thomas. We were going to be 6 times the field almost, 5 times the field. Now we're just 3, 4. That's cool with me on this slate. But, I mean, this is still with Jamal Williams not factored into these contest sims. So, like, these probably won't be my numbers at the very end of it. Things, obviously we change. But I'm kind of curious about quarterback captain here. I don't know if I want to captain Derek Carr, because the path that Carr captain hitting would have to be him really spreading it out. Like, he would have to be hitting, Olave for a touchdown and then like Foster, Moreau. Because if Thomas or Shaheed catch a ball, I'd catch a touchdown and stuff. I feel like I'd be minted. So I'm going to be debating, taking away Derek Carr captain. He is super cheap at 8,800, but I don't mind gambling that Mike Thomas could have a big day, and he's a lot cheaper than him too. You got Shaheed down there. Trevor Lawrence is another one that we can debate the captain on. He's one of the best quarterback captains whenever he's on the slate, just because of the fact that he's one of the best rushing quarterbacks, and it's not really talked about with him. But that knee injury could hinder his mobility just a tad. But I'm still going to include him in the captain pool just because I respect everything he's done. He gets 30 yards rushing almost every game, it seems, and bum knee or not, I still think he's going to put in that effort and still scramble out and make some big plays.
I did note, how much McManus are we getting there in the flex too?
We are getting a healthy amount, 25%.
Okay, I like that.
Not a lot of groupies though.
Okay, I mean, I'm just looking at this McManus. So 3. I mean, he has 3 field goal attempts in 4 of their 6 games, 17, 14, 10, 6, 5, 8 DraftKings points. So, I mean, his lowest so far on the season is what, 5 DraftKings points? I think that's pretty nice there.
When we lower it to eliminating 5-1s, right? So this is interesting here too, is that it kind of just gives us a lot more captains for Jaguars too. It gives us a little bit more Ridley, Ingram, Kirk, and then it didn't bump McManus. So when we did that for the Giants slate, it gave us a ton of Gano, which ended up being optimal. Gano ended up getting there in the optimal for sure. But eliminating 5-1s, we do want to make sure that it's not just boosting these defense and kickers, because that kind of takes away from the spirit. I mean, if a team's sucking, they're probably not kicking field goals or they're probably not defending well. And that's not the case here. What it did is it bumped the skill players up quite a bit, which I think we'd prefer that, and still get the numbers at the top that we like, except it just mixes in these Jaguars a bit more. So I think I might eliminate the 5-1s tonight, AP. I'll debate it, but it might be the path I go.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, can the Saints go four in a row, 5-1? Just from and again, it's like today is a new game. It doesn't really matter what happened last game, but you can take that information and learn from it. Can they go 4 games in a row having 5-1s? I don't know with how the team dynamics set up. It just seems like there's enough production on both sides to where we see a 3-3 or 4-2. So I do think I am with you there. What was the other contest sim that we ran? Did we run any like very small entry? I always think it's unique, almost like almost like a cash game type of. Let's
add a very small single entry, about like 98 people or something. Let's see if we can find something like that. Might not be able to. I don't know. We'll continue looking. This one has a lot of people in it. This one has a lot of people in it. You have 3 entry max. You have a wildcat with 50 people. We can use that. I mean, units are units, so it's not like a huge deal. You got to see if it's single entry. Here's a $15 single entry with 2,700. You got a single entry here. Bubble screen. Man, I don't know. There's not like a whole lot of options here.
Just add one of those. With the low. God, that one. What about right there? With the 50 people, the 333.
Perfect. All right,
max entry. Yeah, let's do that. Just because, and again, not fully cash game type of build, but I want to see what
a very small field.
Because we had Michael Thomas as the highest. Do you remember the 20 max? Was it Michael Thomas also?
Yeah.
Okay.
It jammed Michael Thomas for us. It didn't jam the Jaguars defense, though.
And notice, we didn't rerun anything. We didn't rerun the builds or anything. We have 5,000 builds that we're working off of. So is that the size that you ran, 5,000?
Yeah, 5,000. We got a pool of 5,000 to choose from. I eliminated 5 ones. What we'll do is we'll also add 5 ones back and when the contest sims here. And we'll just see what the top build is for this small 50-man field and then kind of go from there. So, AP, if I was smart, I would have added that contest sim before I ran it. So we got to wait another minute, but clearly I'm not smart.
No, you're good. What's that 25K one?
This is the 3-entry max. We kind of gave it a quick glance. $4 3-entry max. It's a great contest.
Ingram. Yeah.
Pretty large field, though, I think. But it's a good one.
Gosh, when I look at this, though, I mean, which side do you think is more likely to have the captain tonight? Jaguars or Saints?
Saints, because we're high on that wide receivers. I mean,
and the Jags. All right, so Ridley's going to have a tough matchup. They typically spread it around quite a bit, not as much as like the Chiefs, but you got a lot of dudes that they can throw to. So, and then on the Saints side, it's Kamara, and then we like Shaheed and Michael Thomas. So I'm with you.
Your top lineup, AP, for the small field.
But you can see what it's doing. Like it's obviously it knows what, so it's factoring in the different contests, and you can see there the different build style for each one. I mean, so even if you don't know the sport, don't know ball very well, you can build really good lineups for whatever contest you're in, whether it's 50 people. Maybe it's 20 people against, a buddies group or something like that.
Yeah.
You can build good lineups according to what contest you're in.
So what this is doing, and people might be, why is it not chasing the optimal or whatever? That's the whole point of Showdown. You're supposed to get the highest score. Well, what it's doing is that you're going against 50 people. The odds that someone has the top scoring lineup is very slim. So it's valuing floor. And the guy with the highest floor on the slate is arguably Trevor Lawrence, right? You can do it with his feet. You can do it through the air. Obviously, that knee injury is a slight concern.
Can you put like 10 lineups in there just to see what the top 10 are for this?
100%. And we have Mike Thomas won the next one too, but you also get both quarterbacks who probably presumptuously have a high floor. The risk is obviously it's fading running backs. So you get exposure to almost the entire Saints wide receiving core, and you get exposure to the Evan Ingram, who we bumped up quite a bit. So it's really aligned to your thoughts. And, we might have Olave slightly overprojected and stuff, but it still gives you that safety where if you get 2 of these 3 guys that hit, you might have a chance to take down that contest. And it's got a high win rate in a 50-man field. That's why the win rate's high. Then we go down to the next lineup, right? You got a double stack with Derek Carr fade despite Mike Thomas captain. What it's also saying is it doesn't lay correlation a ton in these small field ones, right? Like it could easily, have Derek Carr plugged in over Alvin Kamara. You probably wouldn't think twice, but this is unique because it doesn't have Carr despite having 2 of his weapons.
I like that. Can you go? All right, so I know we're bouncing around a little bit here, but can you go back to the Millie Maker one? I just thought of like a really, really out there. It's Thursday. It's all about what's everyone going to be tilting at the end of the day. I mean, are there any Jaguars defense, Brandon McManus, but then a 2-4 build, like in the entire pool? I'm just curious.
My bet would be yes before I click it. Yep, there it is.
Right away. All right.
Well,
I like that.
You want it in a 4-2 where there's Jaguars, right?
I mean, are most of them like in the entire pool? There's 185 of them then in the entire pool, it looks like, right?
Yes. However, what we can do too is that we'll do this. We'll go back to limiting 5-1s. I know that you might not be a fan, but this might give us what we want to, what we want to see. Jaguars with McManus. They're not in a 4-2 Saints build, which is intriguing. I did see the path that you're on. It could be something.
Click down, like scroll down to the pool to see if there's none that's we still got 85 in the pool.
Let's see. I was hoping to make it easy. Pool.
Yeah, I was just curious if because that would be an out there build for sure.
There's a 3-3 right here.
Yeah, I mean
you could easily go Kamara over ETN right here too. You get so much salary.
There you go. I mean, and again, going back to it though, it's the average Saints optimal. Oh, I closed out of that tab. What'd I say? It was like 47K. I mean, Are you setting in? Did you leave the minimum salary at 45K?
I left it at 43 just for fun.
43. Okay, on this slate, I like that too. We're still gonna get. I mean, like for that to happen, you would need. I mean, most likely you'd need like a cheaper option in the captain spot, and then some randomness to happen.
Yeah, it makes sense. Let's see.
But yeah, there's a few interesting ones. I mean, tonight is all about getting creative, I think. I mean, if you're trying to solo ship that $1 million, I mean, you could also get scooped. That's like the risk. So it really comes down to your risk tolerance. Like, what's your overall risk tolerance, for your portfolio builds? If you're fine getting completely scooped, yeah, you can get really creative on a slate like tonight. I mean, it's a tough way to play, though.
2 uniques tonight. That's the main thing for us, right? I think I'm definitely running 2 uniques. And Taysom Hill, we talked about him. We're kind of high on him, but his projection's really low right now. But without Juwan Johnson, he was the clear tight end 1 last game. He's always a threat to score in the red zone. We never know how the coaching staff's going to use him. And I actually like him in Derek Carr fades for that reason too, just because he could vulture in that situation.
I like that too.
But yeah, this slate, I get more and more excited as we talk about it because I think there's some clear paths where we can exploit. Like you noted it earlier in the show. Like we have the Jaguars have been really poor against wide receiver 2s and 3s. They have Darius Williams, who's an incredible corner. He'll likely be on Olave. Could change a little bit and stuff. That's why we have a lot of exposure to Olave too. But we have Mike Thomas projected over him. Shaheed for big playability. And we have Kirk slightly projected ahead of Ridley because of the Lattimore matchup. And yeah, I think, taking these stands is important on slates like this where there's no clear path. Their running backs are a little bit shaky right now too, where ETN and Kamara gets Jamal Williams back. ETN gets a tough matchup. But both can absolutely pay dirt at their tags. So it's not something that we want to ignore. And obviously you just saw throughout the show how we have a ton of the passing game. When I go back, I might give ETN a slight bump, might give Kamara a slight bump too, just to see where they're at and get percentages where even if I'm not even with the field, I do want to be slightly under if in that case, just because they're very good floor plays too. Either one of them can get 5-6 catches and still be optimal in the flex.
Yep, I agree. All right, we got, again, an aggressive schedule coming up today. 2 o'clock, we have the Print Factory with Big T, JSU, and Whistles Go Woo. And then we have the Showdown Kings taking us up to lock with our guys, JBC, Statsational, and Holden. JBC on absolute fire, Statsational, absolute fire on the bet side. Big T on fire, too, on the bet side. NBA 15% off the code that we have going on right now. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe. We appreciate it. Rubio, before we get out of here, who do you got winning tonight?
Oh, I didn't want to answer this.
I know, I didn't either.
Give me the Saints just slightly. Tackles are both down. That's definitely a big concern. I like the Jaguars defense quite a bit tonight, but I think it'll be a really good game, probably within the spread. Give me the Saints just barely. It wouldn't surprise me to see it go either way.
I got a slight lean to the Jaguars, so
yeah, I respect it.
I mean,
it's a tough one.
Well, I figured it would happen. But again, a slight lean. Jaguars, slight lean to the Saints for my guy Rubio. With that, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Make sure to check the Print Factory coming up later with Big T, JSU, and Whistles Go Woo. For that, I'm AP. That's Rubio. Rumpier.